Welcome back to another edition of Appropriations 101. Today we have with us the chairman of the Ledge Branch Appropriation, this one here. It is the smallest appropriation of all the appropriation bills, but to us in Congress it's one of the most important. It is actually about 4.4% of discretionary spending and about, 0.44% of discretionary spending and about 0.1% of all spending. So people that think we spend a lot of money on ourselves here in Congress, very, very little, but it's a very important bill. Chairman of it is David Valadao from the great state of California. Tell us a little bit about your district, David.
So I represent California's 22nd Congressional District, which is a lot of Kern County, so just east of Bakersfield there, all the way up into Tulare and Kings County, a little bit south of Fresno. Very rural, so a lot of agriculture, 400 different types of commodities. But some of our majors are things like dairy, beef, corn, wheat. We do also a lot of almonds, pistachios, citrus, table grapes, carrots, a lot of different things.
It's amazing the variety of crops that grow in the Central Valley. And I know that you guys have water issues, and
Yes, we do.
just like we sometimes have them, but not as seriously as what yours are. But man, you supply the country with all sorts of fruits and vegetables and nuts and everything else. We're trying to catch you from Idaho on dairy, but we'll never catch you. But we're going to become the second largest dairy state when we overtake Wisconsin.
Well, that's the thing a lot of people don't understand is California is the #1 dairy state. We produce 20% of the nation's milk. And people look at California and think Hollywood and San Francisco, and they forget that there's a lot of agriculture there.
Yeah, awful lot of agriculture. So tell us a little bit about the legislative branch appropriation. You've become the new chairman of that, and it is, as I said, it's more than just what is appropriated to us. There are other things that are appropriated that are very important in the ledge branch. So tell us a little bit about it and what the challenges are that you face.
All right, so legislative branch, when you think that, you think immediately the building itself and legislators. But I think people forget how much of a role the funding in that bill helps us as members of Congress communicate and educate ourselves and prepare ourselves for when we legislate. Things like the CRS, Congressional Research Service, to make sure that we have the most up-to-date and accurate information when we are writing those bills. And then when we vote, what maintains the voting systems, the networks that people at home can watch what we're doing, so it keeps that open and transparent government. And then when we actually have those actions, our office's abilities to use different technology that the House makes available to them so they can record, produce, and actually publish some of the information, or social media platforms, or your computers, or your offices themselves. Keeping the building safe so that people, if they come here to visit, or us as members and our staff, have a safe place to work or visit. And you also have to worry about making sure that we maintain the integrity of the building. I mean, you look at the Capitol, it's the background of so many different news organizations and so many different beautiful pictures. Making sure that building is taken care of and maintained so that it's there for future generations to enjoy. But also under legislative branch, we also have the funding for Supreme Court, the Library of Congress, and so other things that are important to our constituents. It is an important bill, but yes, it's such a small bill that sometimes people overlook it a little bit.
Yeah, it is, as you mentioned, one of the important things is that it helps us communicate with our constituents, and our constituents to be able to communicate with us, which is probably more important.
Very much so.
To let us know what's going on, and if they want to check on what we're doing or how we're voting or things like that, or what legislation is up and how it will impact them, they have access to that, and that's all in your legislative branch appropriation. The other thing that you mentioned that I think is very important, and maybe has become more important, it seems like, in the last few years, is protecting not just the people, not just us, and the people that work here. And I understand there's about 10,000 people that work on Capitol Hill between the House and the Senate and the Capitol. But it's protecting the millions of people that visit Washington, D.C. and the Capitol every single year. Yes. And they do a great job with that. I am so impressed by our Capitol Hill police.
No, they do a great job, making sure they have the tools necessary to, one, keep us safe on the spot, but also make sure that they're following any and all threats that are being placed against the building, the people here, the area. All those things require resources, and we do our best to provide the resources they need, with being as mindful as we possibly can with the taxpayer dollar.
Yeah. Tell me how the MRA works. This is how members of Congress get funded.
So member representative allowance, the MRA as it's more commonly known, is the amount of money that is allocated to each member of Congress to operate their offices. And that's, we pay our staff out of that, we fix our computers, buy phones, pay for our travel, lease our offices in our district, pay our electric bills. I mean, everything from the most minor purchasing toner for your printer and ink and pens to making sure that you have a staff and you make decisions on how to allocate those dollars. Each individual office makes those decisions. The committee sets or approves the number and funds those numbers, whatever the decision is made to fund at. But each member of Congress has jurisdiction over those dollars, and again, those dollars are what we use as members of Congress to take care of our offices and manage our offices, and it's how we represent our districts. Our pay as members of Congress is the only thing that's not included in that.
So there's a limit to how many employees we can have, right?
I don't know if I've ever heard a limit. You just, if you want to pay people very little, I guess you can hire more.
Oh, can you?
Yeah.
Because I always thought you were limited to like 18 people, but you try to get good people and it costs some money to do that.
We're competing with the private sector,
Yeah.
just like anyone else. And a lot of times you hire young staff, and this is their first jobs, and then they work their way up. They'll gain a lot of experience in the building, and sometimes they get hired away to bigger and better things, sometimes at their homes or in the districts, or sometimes here in Washington working for different agencies. There's lots of opportunity out there.
Yeah.
But our opportunity to be able to keep them here is our ability to be able to pay them to make it competitive.
Yeah, and every district is different. Some people have more people that, I always say this, live up than live out. My district's very rural, as your district is too. I have 3 district offices, one in Boise and Twin Falls and in Idaho Falls. Some people can walk around their district, you know, I mean, so they don't need that many offices and stuff. So every member has to decide how they're gonna split that money up, how many people they're gonna have in the district versus how many people here and stuff. But those are decisions that each member has to make. What happens if I overspend my budget?
You pay personally. No one can come in and save you on that. So it forces us to be as mindful of how we spend those dollars as possible, because yeah, you as a member of Congress are responsible ultimately for your member representative allowance. But to your point earlier, yes, you have people who represent areas that you could literally walk in a circle and cover their whole district. Typically those offices cost quite a bit more.
Yeah.
And there's little differences between our MRA amounts, but I live in California, you live in Idaho. I would say our travel back and forth is probably pretty similar.
Yeah.
But our cost per office, I only have 2 district offices. It's probably a lot less than what someone would be paying in Chicago or San Francisco or New York.
Yeah, that's true.
So there's a lot of give and take there, but it's up to us to make those decisions, how we spend those dollars, and try to be as efficient as we possibly can.
Well, I always tell my chief of staff, if she overruns the budget, I'm gonna take it out of her salary, not mine. And one of the clerks here in the office heard me say that to her, and I'm always teasing her about it. They said, he can't do that, it's out of his salary. Anyway, thanks for joining us today and talking about the legislative appropriation bill, one of the 12 appropriation bills that fund Congress and that Congress is responsible for. So we look forward to working with you and getting the Ledge Ranch appropriation done this year, and with the other Cardinals that we'll see on the rest of these Appropriation 101's videos.